Who will be tonight's early round shocker? Where will these 12 drafters select Rashee Rice? And can the Joes keep the title for an 8th straight year? Follow along with the live draft board tonight. Watch our pick-by-pick analysis as we call the action from the 2025 FFPC Pros versus Joes Nirvana Division 1 to see who's going to win a 2026 FFPC Main Event squad. We've got a great show for you. Farrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. The 2025 Pros versus Joes drafts live on the FFPC High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour starts right now.
Under pressure, I've seen greater men need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture, are we not all our father's sons? I became a man, nobody ever told me what a man was.
Greetings and salutations to all of you Balkaholics and Farelliacs. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, and my co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, one Farrell Elliott. Tonight, we have the first of 6 special episodes for you. It's the 2025 FFPC Pros versus Joes Nirvana Division Draft tonight, and we will be broadcasting it for its entire duration. Shout out to the chat room on Facebook, X, and YouTube. Post any questions you might have in there. Connect with us on X at HSFF Hour. I'm at Eric Balkman, and check out Farrell Elliott's Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. Facebook.com/slash HSFF Hour is where to reach us there. And, of course, you can also email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, send them in, and we'll get to them throughout the broadcast tonight. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, all the X posts and emails throughout the broadcast, thanks to the hard work of our producer and mutual friend Rob, and of course our audio engineer, my best friend Bryce. As a reminder, a week from today is deadline day for the 2025 FFPC Main Event early draft slot announcement. When you pay for your team in full, you're going to get your draft slot Sunday, August 3rd. Remember that if you already have a team, you'll get $600 off each additional team you add on. Square those balances away at myffpc.com. While you're there, and I'll get to the draft, I promise you in a second, I want to remind everybody, myffpc.com is where to go for the Big Gorilla Tournament. $1 million grand prize, just $350 to enter. The 7 Bananas promo is new this year, so check that out. If you keep giving that 7 pick multiple times in a row, we're going to keep giving you free teams, and it will end in a jungle safari for 4 for free if you get it 5 times in a row. Main event, I already told you about at myffpc.com. We have a best ball and a Superflex best ball tournament going on at myffpc.com. And, of course, Dynasty startups going on all the live long day, year round. myffpc.com is where you can play Dynasty Fantasy Football 365 days a year. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, get notified every time we go live, which will be a lot this week. And it'll be tomorrow. More on that to come. Let's bring him in right now, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Mr. Farrell Elliott. Farrell, good evening.
Brother, how are you? I am honored and humbled by the early comments in the chat room. It's good to see everybody and some names that we haven't seen in a couple of weeks. This is great stuff.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how Pros versus Joes just brings everybody out of the woodwork. I think like with the FFPC, there is several unofficial kickoffs to the fantasy season, like the NFL draft. I wouldn't even say that. I would say when we offer our first draft back in January, the NFL draft, after the NFL draft, and then, obviously mini camps. We got training camp going on, and then Pros versus Joes, the next unofficial kickoff, as we bring you live coverage tonight. I want to bring on the draft board right now, ladies and gentlemen, as we are off and running. If I can bring this up right here. Oh, yeah, these guys are on point tonight, Farrell. They are on point with how they've been drafting. We're already through round 1, and let me get this set up for optimal viewing here. Let me know in the chat if you guys can't see it all that well, but I think we should be good to go here. In fact, I'm going to bring it down just a little bit to tell you who is drafted today. You're squinting already? Hold on, I'll make it.
I'm squinting, but I'll be okay. I just learned that I have the ability to make my screen. There we go.
Yeah, that's probably a little bit better right now, just so we have that dialed in and everybody can see it cleanly. Okay, tonight's drafters, once again, these are 6 FFPC Joes randomly selected in the early whoever had their team in at the early bird deadline at the end of May got entered into a random drawing, and we've picked 42 of them out of for these 7 drafts, and 6 of them are in the draft tonight, going against 6 pros that were selected in part by a crack team at the FFPC, including me. And then Fantasy Mojo, of course, helps pick these out every single year. And this is the lineup we have tonight. Zachariason from lateround.com. He had the first pick tonight. The FFPC Joe team of Rick Raymaker and Andy Rule were picking second. Peter Overzet from Fantasy Life is picking third. Scott Fritz, who we just talked on Friday night on the High Stakes Fantasy Football, Farrell, he is drafting fourth. Tod Burros from the Run to Daylight podcast is drafting fifth. Grian Myers is drafting sixth tonight, FFPC Joe. Jeff Mans from Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio and Fantasy Guru is drafting seventh tonight. Our buddy, the Fantasy Soprano himself, Steven Irgalos and Michael Reddy, drafting at the 8th spot. Bob Lung, who was on the Insider Access FFPC show with me on the Better Sports Network last week, he is drafting 9th. Chris Carlson, longtime FFPC player, drafting 10th. Tyler Bucher from Fantasy Guru is 11th, and then Roy Parenzuela and Corey Hanstein rounding things up here at the 12th spot tonight. And I don't want to say a little bit of a surprise here, Farrell, but we don't get our first running back off the board until pick 4. That was Scott Fritz taking Bijan Robinson after Chase went to Zachariason. Jefferson goes to Raymaker and Rule, and then Brock Bowers off the board to Overzet there. And we saw some scuttlebutt on X earlier that Overzet would not be taking a running back here. Farrell, what do you make of Bijan Robinson falling all the way to 4 tonight?
Yes, I see nothing wrong with that. I like it. Justin Jefferson is going to be the go-to wide receiver in Minnesota no matter what. There's my Captain Obvious statement for the night. Overzet's not going to let Bowers get away from him. If you're in a draft with Overzet, he's going to be drafting Bowers, and there's no way Bowers gets back to him. So, boom, Bowers goes in the 3rd spot, and then Bijan. And you have to feel very, very good about Bijan that you think back to the start of the last season, and they were still giving Allgaier all the touches inside the 5-yard line. That waned as the season went on. So let's have a full season of Robinson. Allgaier will be a complimentary second back, but less around the goal line. I think Robinson is definitely in for a good year, and congratulations for Fritz, who gets him at the 4th spot, and he didn't think that would be available to him there.
Yeah, he had to be pleasantly surprised. Trey McBride goes to Tod Burros a little bit earlier than maybe I expected tonight at the 105. But Todd did say in the YouTube chat earlier on the show that he was feeling disruptive tonight. So
disruptive. Well, it's a general state of affairs for Todd.
That's true. Yeah, the disruptor, Tod Burros at Best Ball NFL on X. A pair of Lions go next. Jameer Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown. CeeDee Lamb falls all the way to the 108 tonight. Bob Lung grabs up Saquon Barkley at the 109. Neighbors, Nakua, and Achane complete the first round. I think, and I know Steven Irgalos drafts a ton. He's drafting from the 8th spot tonight. He had to be pretty happy that CeeDee Lamb falls to him. I think it's a big year. I know the addition of Pickens has people concerned about the target volume for Lamb. I think this is only going to help him. And maybe the volume goes down, but the efficiency should go way up. Here's your lazy analysis tonight. Dak Prescott is great every other year. This is a great year for him this year. And I think Lamb's a big beneficiary. I love the Lamb pick at 108 tonight.
I do too. And that's where the fantasy sopranos want to be. And you can already see a little Kentucky in their blood. They're drafting wide receivers early. I want to say hello to Bob Lung. I missed your show with him this week. And Bob and Barkley gets a huge performer there. People are talking about Barkley. They say, well, he's going to be less what he does last year. He's going to regress. Was he going to regress 10%, 20%, 25%? I don't care. Even at 25%, he's still about 1,800 yards from scrimmage. I can live with that. I think you could too, Balky. The thing about it is that Bob Lung works hard bringing fantasy players together with his convention, gets a lot of respect, and I appreciate him being here tonight. Deserves a lot of respect.
He does, yeah. And
he gets it too, but he deserves it.
Yes, 100%. No surprise that he goes with Barkley and Henry, two of the more consistent players. Although last year Barkley had a lot of those spike weeks with those, whatever it was, 7 or 8 runs of touchdown runs of longer than 30 yards. I don't know how replicable that is, but certainly we're going to find out this year. And you and I talked about this. I'm hemming and hawing about Saquon Barkley at the 103, and he falls to the 109 tonight too. So, certainly that's as much of a slam dunk as you get here. In the second round, we saw Collins, McCaffrey, and Brian Thomas with the first 3 picks. I already mentioned Henry going to Bob Lung. Reddy and Yergalos start with 3 straight receivers here. London was their pick in the second round. Genty, Jacobs, McConkey, George Kittle goes tonight at the 209 to Scott Fritz. So he starts off his team with running back, tight end. We'll see how he sort of makes up the difference at receiver. Bucky Irving, Jonathan Taylor, and then J.J. Zachariason grabs A.J. Brown at the 212 tonight to start off Jamar Chase and A.J. Brown. I don't know if Jake was talking about that pick or if he was talking about the Tyreek Hill pick at the 301, but he said, what a gift for J.J., either A.J. Brown or Tyreek Hill. They both happen at the same time, basically. Our buddy Christian Barney Newkirk hopping aboard, watching us on Facebook tonight. He said Lamb and Barkley dropping that far is insane. I don't know if it's insane, Farrell, but it did raise my eyebrow. I think one of the things that we have to keep in mind with something like this is with these analysts coming on who all produce great content. If they didn't produce great content, they wouldn't be in this competition. You have to understand that first place gets a free main event in the FFPC next year, which is a $2,000+ value. Second place gets nothing, not even a pair of socks. So this is all about getting your guys. It's all about winning the thing, and it's all about taking huge swings. So in this format tonight, the pros can't hide. They're going to draft their guys because they know that just being a good team in this is not going to be good enough. You have to be great. You have to be elite, and everybody is going to be getting their guys, which is one of the great things about the pros versus Joes format.
I think it's really wonderful, Bucky. And I when in the chat room, we had a couple guys this spring that says, I am never wrong. I am, some real characters, some of them haven't shown up in a while, but this is a time where those of us who are watching this draft and listening and looking can very much learn. The whole key of fantasy football, I think, is not what you know. The real mystery and how you can build and be successful is realize what you don't know. And you can learn a lot here. And if we're getting an indication that Lamb is going to fall, that you can actually put together a team with Barkley and Henry, I'm signing up for that right now. And I think we're learning that if you're not in the first half of the draft, your chances of getting Brock Bowers are very slim. And I don't, now the numbers that we get from Darren at Fantasy Mojo might disprove that. But when you get these kind of guys in the room, this is a real indicator of where thought from others may be forthcoming. That sounded kind of word salad, but what I'm saying is we're looking into the future with some of the picks from here.
So the other thing I'll point out, speaking of Mojo, at Fantasy Mojo on X, that's Darren Armani. He is the godfather of the Pros versus Joes competition, been helping us run this thing. Basically, he runs the whole thing for a decade plus now. And if you have or are playing in the FFPC, I highly recommend you get a subscription to fantasymojo.com. Well worth the price as far as the ADP data, the stacking data. I will pump up the in-season stuff. I know Darren doesn't pump that too much, but it's great to find out where these players are going for, how much they're going for on the waiver wire. It's great stuff. If I look at the FFPC Best Ball Tournament ADP, which features, by the way, a $300,000 grand prize, and for the first time ever this year, a $100,000 runner-up grand prize, or a $100,000 runner-up second place prize, you're looking at just $125 to enter this. It filled up last year. It's going to fill up again this year. Make sure you're getting in and playing in that. If I look at that ADP data, Farrell, Saquon Barkley over the last, 3 days here. Barkley, running back 3 at the 105. CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver 3 at the 106. So good value there, as we mentioned, with Yergalos and Reddy taking Lamb. And then, of course, Bob Lung taking Barkley. They're already through the third round. We saw a pair of Bengals go this round, as well as a pair of Jets, Farrell. JJ Zachariason, one of two teams to start off receiver. He pairs, or he has Tyreek Hill join the trio now of Chase, Brown, and Hill there. I think it's interesting, and we can talk about this. Do you make anything of him knowing that he had Chase, knowing that he could get Burrow here at the 4-5 turn? Do you make anything of him taking Tyreek Hill over T. Higgins? Is that something that you would have done? Because I look at it where you have to win the whole thing. Man, you get Chase in the first, Higgins in the third, and then Burrow in the fifth. I think you're making something there. He went with Tyreek Hill instead.
Very, very impressive, volatile, sincere, and dedicated offense in Cincinnati. And, man, they need to be, because on the defensive side of the ball, they're going to give up a lot of points. And for fantasy, I don't care how many sacks Burrow is going to experience this year. He always hits a big number, and he always gets up and plays ball. I like it. I do not like Brown here. I think Brown you'll have hard time getting value over that. And I'm not so thrilled that I like Hill. So I would have mixed in a running back there and probably gone for one of these. You're probably gone for T. Higgins, yeah.
The other pick I wanted to talk about here, we said with Scott Fritz starting off with running back, tight end, it was going to be interesting to see what he'd do at receiver. And listen, I don't want to say I'm loaded with Marvin Harrison this year, but I have enough. I have a decent amount of Marvin Harrison.
A lot of people had enough of him last year too.
They did. And now this is a guy that was going at the 1-2 turn last year, and now you can get him here at the 304. Why I like this pick for Fritz is, granted, the build is still early, but you need to kind of fill in that receiver position some way, whether it's volume or whether it's elite upside. First place is the only, I'm going to harp on this the whole broadcast. First place is the only place getting paid out. Why not take a high upside guy, a pedigree guy in Harrison, a guy who's been making headlines for bulking up this year, a guy who is playing on a team whose offense is going to have a much easier schedule than they did in 2024. Yeah, maybe Harrison doesn't hit, but if he does, all of a sudden that looks like a great pick. And oh, by the way, you already have George Kittle, who could be the number one tight end this year, and Bijan Robinson, who could be the number one running back this year. So that's why I like that Harrison pick specifically here for Scott Fritz at the 304 tonight.
Scott knows what he's doing, and he'll a little bit determine on his build. I think if all those things come to pass, he's still in the production of the four receivers that went immediately after him. So I'm willing to just go ahead and say I would have taken one of those four receivers because I like their name brands. And Balky, I just got a note from the board of directors at the KFFSC, and we'll have to clear it with Darren and the powers that be at the FFPC. But the KFFSC has stepped up and will provide the second place finisher with a complimentary pair of socks this year. So I want you to know that we've got the socks covered. I'll go, how many divisions are they?
We had 7 this year.
We have 7 total. We're all going to get a pair of Stance, the great socks. I'll make sure everybody gets something.
KFFSC live on the air, becoming a sponsor of the FFPC Pros.
Yeah, as long as everybody's down with it, we're going to have those socks.
I can almost unequivocally say that we will make that happen. Like it is allowed.
I've got a very, very impressive new merchandise guy that's going to make sure that we have all kinds of materials that we can distribute for that. But this year it's socks. John
Terry wants to know what color socks, and Richard Ross says that he wants the socks too as well.
Ross will get socks no matter where he finishes, and Terry's socks will have his name sewn in them where there won't be danger of losing them. So we'll be all right.
Okay, moving on. Terry McLaurin here, Farrell, tonight to Jeff Manns from Fantasy Guru and, of course, Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. He grabs Terry McLaurin at the 307. Any concerns here with him not reporting? I mean, you're the agent. You know more about this than I do. It's July 20th. I'm not panicking, and certainly Manns isn't either, by dialing in with maybe a value on McLaurin coming off a big year and what could be a bigger year with year 2 of Jaden Daniels in Washington.
I think everything he's drafted here is a bargain. You talk about potential. This team impresses me at every turn. A question directly about McLaurin, that deal will get done. I'm surprised it's dragging on. I don't particularly I've been too busy to dig into it, but I'm going to make some calls and ask some questions this week. I'll have a better answer for you later in the week, Balky. But it's a little bit senseless, and I would pay this player now, because I tell you what, in the future you're going to have to pay him more.
So there's scuttlebutt going on, as long as we're talking about Jeff Mann's team from the 7-hole tonight, Farrell. We got Richard Ross saying that Mann's is his favorite team so far.
Yep.
However, Adam Hahn jumps in and says Ashton Genty is going to bust this year. And I feel like Adam, who's tuned into so many of our shows, I think that is a drumbeat that he has had, is he does not like Genty this year for redraft purposes. But when you look at Mann's team, we're looking at the 7-hole viewers. St. Brown and Genty to kick things off, and he's gone McLaurin, Daniels, Kelsey. A balanced team so far. You have the youth with Genty and Daniels. You also have the experience with McLaurin and Kelsey, and I guess St. Brown as well. What do you make of Kelsey here at the 507, knowing that he was the 5th tight end off the board? There certainly were other tight ends you could have gone after, but he gets his guy in Kelsey this year. And I don't know if I would have been that aggressive, but if Kelsey sees a bunch of targets and he just catches them and falls down, that could work this year for fantasy too. He doesn't necessarily have to be all that athletic to put up big numbers.
It could, but he won't. I saw a stat the other day. Pitts was on the field for 61% of the Falcons' snaps this past season. Now, when Kelsey comes off the field for one snap, especially if he's in red zone, he gets in the head coach's face. This is a player that I think has a better year. I think he was a little beat up physically this past year, and he doesn't complain about it. He doesn't make excuses. He's one of my favorite players in the league today, and one of my favorite ever to play football. And that's, he's going to get his 130 catches. Or 130 targets. Okay. He's going to get his 90 to 100 catches. They're going to be graded at 1.5 points a catch. And that's why I love this team so much. Now, Mr. Hahn, Adam's coming in here, and I will listen. I said that the best thing to do tonight is listen. Yeah. So if he's going to bust, I want some real numbers from Adam Hahn. I want to know what those numbers are, because the Raiders rookie camp just started. The veterans report either tomorrow or the next day. I want to know how a Pete Carroll team, with all the assets that this team has to put into Genty, the opportunity for him to bust is going to be limited, because he's going to have so many carries and so many touches. As long as he remains upright, he's going to have every opportunity, and he may average just 3.5 yards a carry. But, he's going to have 200 plus carries, and he's going to catch the ball, and he's got a lot of wiggle, and this team is going to be centered around him. So I would like Mr. Hahn to come back and just tell us what these numbers are going to equal bust.
And certainly with Genty, the lower you pick him, the threshold or the what he has to return on the value gets lower too. I am not of the opinion that he's going to bust, but listen, anybody who wants to tell me about it, I will certainly listen. I want to talk about Team 8 here, because this is the other one. We started talking about Jeff Mann's team. John Terry chimes in, and he said he'd take Team 8 over Team 7 100% of the time. Jake Belike also says that the 8-hole is crushing it. Mm-hmm. And Derek Greer says Fantasy Sopranos is the team to beat at this point. Sean Green, a guy who drafted in this competition last year, says he likes Steve's team as well. So why don't we talk about Steve's team that is getting rave reviews here from the 8-hole. Lamb, obviously, we talked about earlier, where you get the value on him. London, Smith, and Jigba, that is a boatload of targets. I believe that's about 31,000 targets this year. With the top 3 there. And then he gets Hampton in the 4th round, follows it up with Pickens, and now Hawkinson he gets as the 6th tight end off the board. Is that accurate? Yeah, 6th tight end off the board here. Farrell, one of the things I'm not saying that this has always been the case for my squads, but man, there's been times after I look at a team that I just drafted, and I look at like the first 9-10 picks, and I see all just these target mongers on that team that aren't really maybe the greatest end zone, red zone type guys. I still love it. And I look at all these targets, Lamb, London, Smith, and Jigba. Say what you will about Hawkinson being the, potentially the 3rd or maybe even 4th option on that team with a quasi rookie quarterback. I still love that value there. Pickens, we already talked about the fact that Prescott's going to be good this year, and Steve obviously and Michael have a chance to get Dak Prescott here at some point to get a Cowboy stack. And then Hampton too, with this Najee Harris thing. Yeah, maybe it's superficial, but you know who's running with the ones right now with Los Angeles? It's Hampton, and it's not Harris, and that's only going to help the rookie. I see a ton of upside here. I think if I'm picking at nits, I would say maybe the Seahawks aren't going to be as pass happy as they were last year under Grubb. Now that Kubiak is taking over, I think we could see more of a focus on the ground game. But dude, like I said, I'm picking at nits. I think this is a really, really strong team littered with a ton of targets on it.
You're exactly right, Balky. There's not a whole lot I can add, except that Pickens did need a change of scenery. He's got it. I think he'll respond. Steve and Mr. Reddy are proving that they are exactly that, more than ready for this competition. I love it. And, we might hang with them. We got a pick coming up and see what they do. But very impressive start. And these guys have been drafting. That's why I always say draft early. You will not have to get ready. You won't have to be prepared because you're always prepared. These guys are prepared to compete and draft. There it is. There. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. There, even better.
So you're looking at Pacheco there as the pick for Yurgalos and Reddy here at the 7. I got to either get glasses or I got to increase my size of my screen right now. So
you got to get a big screen up there. Boy.
Yeah, I got it up now. 708 for Pacheco here tonight, which again is sort of an ambiguous backfield, right? You have Rashard Smith there, you have Eli Mitchell, you have Kareem Hunt still there. I don't know if Christian Okoye and is still there as well as Larry Johnson to muddy the waters even more. But Pacheco there at the 708, running back 27 again. You're looking at what we think is going to be a high-powered offense. You're not really sure about the backfield, but Pacheco certainly does seem like the lead guy. And I'll say this too. When Pacheco came back last year, I don't think he was ready. He came back to help his team make a Super Bowl run coming off that leg injury. He was not right. He's had all off season to get right. And now he's going outside the top 24 running backs. This is another win for the Fantasy Sopranos here, just whacking everybody else in this draft.
I love it. I don't see any ambiguity, Balky, because he's the hard runner. He is the guy, I think.
And you're right. I mean, he very well could be. And once training camp gets a little bit more heated and we see who's running with who, I think Pacheco will be the guy. But I'm leaving. I hate speaking in absolutes, so I never speak in absolutes. And I think that if I had to put money on somebody, it's Pacheco. But I reserve the right to change my mind on that at this point.
You're absolutely coming to Kentucky August 22nd. That's an absolute.
I am. Yeah, I'm very excited for that. 14 drafts in 3 days. Going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait for it.
Fantastic.
In fact, Dom Gazzetti and I were texting before the show. Dom, who is a FFPC and KFFSC player, he's going to be on the show live when we're in Louisville for the Kentucky.
Oh, that's wonderful. He'll be a great guest.
Yeah. And that will anybody who's looking to draft in that KFFSC.com spot still available. I've been going for probably 20 years now. It is the highlight of my summer. Absolutely love it. KFFSC.com. Check it out. So we've been getting a lot of positive feedback on JJ Zacharison's team at Late Round QB on X. Of course, lateround.com is where to find all of JJ's work, his podcast, his newsletter, so on and so forth, his draft guide. And there's been a lot of people that said, yeah, he missed out on the Bengals stack there with Chase, Higgins, and Burrow. He still has Chase, and he's collected a lot of high volume, high ceiling type guys here. We talked about Chase Brown and Hill. He got Kamara, who, say what you will about Kamara, but his usage rate was out of control last season for the New Orleans Saints, a team that, frankly, I don't know if that offense is going to be any better, but I'm not really all that worried about it because I saw what Kamara could do with not a whole lot last year, and I'm excited what he can do this year, even though he's a year older. You got Metcalf in Pittsburgh. I'm kind of whatever on that, but it is his fourth receiver, and he's a good best ball play as long as Aaron Rodgers doesn't shun him when he's not in the exact right spot on a fade or something like that. RJ Harvey, you have the upside with him in Denver. Certainly, the Dobbins thing threw a little bit of a monkey wrench into that. But Harvey, I still think is the ceiling is undeniable there. And then a lot of people, Farrell, and I'll ask you about this. A lot of people love the Calvin Ridley pick here at 701 is the 37th receiver off the board. It's weird because it's the Titans, it's a rookie quarterback, and it's Calvin Ridley. But a lot of people liked it on YouTube. Are you also a fan of the Ridley pick by Zachariason here?
Yes. I like Ridley. I don't know. Well, he's got back-to-back picks. Let's see what he does here. But rookie quarterbacks lean heavily on that number one receiver. That's their one read, and they got to make it work. And then if they don't go through the progressions early in the season, they'll lock on that number one guy. It's not the best football move, but it is a very good move for fantasy football. So he's this player's fourth receiver, and it'll be interesting to see when he begins to get a little youth and a little upside on this team.
He's coming up on his pick right now, and we'll tell you who JJ picks here in a second. But I want to bring it back to the Fantasy Sopranos. They end up getting that Cowboy stack. We had Richard Ross chiming in on YouTube. Made is looking better and better. Lamb in the first, Pickens in the fifth, and now Prescott in the eighth. Farrell, what do you make of Prescott in the eighth? A guy that I think you had probably about an 85% chance of getting in the ninth round coming back, but he made sure he got that stack right away. We often hear from some of these analysts in this draft tonight, don't go out of your way to create a stack if they happen. Great. Do you feel like in a format like this where first place is the only place that maybe you would be willing to take Prescott almost 2 full rounds ahead of where he normally goes?
Take a look at the 2 guys drafted behind him and tell me who you would want.
Well, I'm saying this. I'm saying that you could have. Are you saying like the 2 players that went after Prescott and ETN and Mason? Yeah, I mean,
Fields and Mayfield, because if
Fields,
those guys could chime in and say, hey, if Dak's available, we take him. So, I think this is where you had to take the quarterback, looking at the board, and get the quarterback you want. You've already teased it, Balky, that this is Prescott's year. He is the odd year quarterback, apparently. And he has added tools, added weapons. His tight end may be healthy this year too. Why not? These guys have gone all in on what's going on in Dallas. It's very interesting for a couple of guys from straight out of New York and New Jersey, but nevertheless, they are in hats and boots tonight.
So, and I'll say this too, regarding your Gallos' team. The question is not should he have gone with Fields or Mayfield, and I apologize if I did not lead you the right way on this one, Farrell. That's on me. The question is, do you take Travis Etienne? Do you take Mason? Do you take Khalil Shakir? Golden, who I think is a good best ball pick.
No, they're good players.
You could have taken that and then still gotten Prescott in the 9th round. Now, we're living in the Matrix. We'll never know on whether Prescott would have made it back. But rather than you and I talking about this, Farrell, why don't we just talk to the guy who actually made the decision himself? Ladies and gentlemen, the co-manager for the Fantasy Sopranos tonight, along with Michael Reddy. He's drafting out of the 8th spot, drawing rave reviews for his squad through 8 rounds. Please welcome in Steven Yergallo. Steven, welcome aboard, man.
There he is.
What's going on, boys?
How are you?
I'm good. So I'm just gonna justify that Dak pick. If he doesn't come around, anything I've done is, I don't know. They're high-powered offense. I had to take Dak there. No choice.
So it wasn't even like a matter of okay. No. Now I would feel bad. What if I didn't mention Prescott on the air? Would you have still taken him in the 8th round?
The minute I hear the name on the air, I'm like, someone might get him. So it's okay. It didn't bother me.
Okay, and you almost got Pittman. You could almost.
I was torn. I was torn a little bit, but I said, you know what? Let me take Dak just to be sure.
And you got him. Speaking of the Cowboys, how surprised were you to see CeeDee Lamb fall in your lap at the 108 tonight?
Honestly, I wanted to take Trey McBride or Devin Achane. Okay. And I said, I don't know if I was torn, but I thought they'd both be there. Then I got to take a pick. Let me take this pick and I'll tell you.
Yeah, go ahead. You think about this. I'm just going to bring everybody up to speed on Steve's draft so far. The quarterback is Prescott. In the backfield, he has Hampton and Pacheco. Receivers are Lamb, London, Smith and Jigba, and Pickens. He has Hawkinson at tight end and 10 seconds to make this pick here at the 908. Who's it going to be, Steve? Charbonnet, baby. Zach Charbonnet.
I don't think Walker Evans is going to stay healthy, so I figured I'd grab one other running back here.
as JJ Zachariason, who is drafting in the first spot, I think it's JJ always says this, you have to eat your charbs, and you're eating your charbs here at 908 at running back 33. And that's the thing, too. It's like you just need a pocket for Charbonnet this season, 2-3 games. And, hey, if it's more significant than that, he's your number 3 running back. And because and I should have mentioned this at the top of the show for anybody who's tuning in and not familiar with the starting lineup in this best ball tournament or this best ball pros versus Joe's tournament, you're looking at 1 quarterback. You only have to start 2 running backs. You only have to start 2 receivers, a tight end, 2 flexes on this as well. So, Charbonnet could be a regular starter for you, or you never have to count on him, too. And if you are distrustful of Kenneth Walker, Steve, that leads me to believe you have not been drafting a whole lot of Kenneth Walker this season.
No, not really. I've drafted a few shares, but every share that I took a Walker, I took Charbonnet in the 9th round or 10th round. I couldn't just leave him naked. I just
there's your natural handcuff. And Steve, it's got to be very encouraging to you and Mike. You're a favorite of the show and a beloved player, but Balky and I were not campaigning for anyone to comment about your team. That was all done in the chat room, and that was all a wave of support. And you're getting it from all around the country. So congratulations and stay on point, sir. You've got how many more rounds, Balky?
Yeah. I mean, I was torn between Adams and JSN, but let's see how the rest of this goes.
Steve, do you feel like, I mean, besides Prescott, and you obviously explained that pretty well why you did what you did, do you feel like you've reached on anybody tonight? I feel like you've gotten really good value here throughout.
I think listen, based on the stack, I reached on Pickens a little bit. I usually he goes maybe a round later, so I might have reached on Pickens, but I felt that Omari and Hampton, there's a lot of opportunity with him. I needed a running back. I'm trying to build this way, and I don't think I reached, but I don't know who's going to drop to me from here on in. This is a tough draft.
Yeah, was it a tough? I don't want to bring it back to your first round pick here. Was it a tough call between Lamb and Barkley at all? Because both those guys.
Pick. I have no interest in Barkley.
No interest in Barkley.
None.
And can you elaborate on that? Because there's plenty of people that still like Barkley this year, Farrell Elliott included.
Because, look, he dropped to the 8th pick tonight. But for this particular build that I had in my mind, I didn't want to take Saquon Barkley.
Mm-hmm. Said by a true New Yorker. You can join the staff.
That's true. But I'm assuming he's going to have a good year. But I don't have a lot of shares of Barkley. I'm not going to take him 3 or 4. I just don't feel that's the case. And I'd like to try in this area 8, 9, 10 to try to get McBride shares because I actually think he's going to be the tight end 1. I don't think Bowers is going to be the tight end 1 because they picked up Ashton Genty. They got Jack Best. They're talking about the Thornton kid. Jacoby Myers is there. I mean, there has to be some target regression. I mean, negative target regression. They're not going to throw. I mean, they might, but I mean, probability says you have Ashton Genty going somewhere in the first 14 picks on average, and you have Bowers going in the top 5, 6 consistently. I mean, how much offense is that Raiders team going to actually have?
That's where you should stop, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
It
depending on who falls where. I mean, I like Jacoby Myers. I think the guy's just steady.
Here he goes, Steve.
He's very steady. Let's see what we're going to take here.
Your Gallos and ready on the clock here. We are now at the 10:05 in the draft, ladies and gentlemen. Steve just made a pick on the air with Charbonnet. That is his number 3 running back to go with Hampton and Pacheco. We'll talk about Hampton here shortly. He's already got Hawkinson and Prescott at the 1Z positions, and the receivers are loaded. Lamb, London, Smith and Jigba, and Pickens. And you have gone back to the quarterback well here, Steve. Prescott in the 8th, and it is one Drake May in the 10th.
Drake May is going to be really good this year,
and he'll be better later in the year than he is early, and that's good insurance for your Prescott.
I did 3 startup dynasty leagues this year, and in every single one of those dynasty leagues, I took Drake May.
Yeah,
Triflex.
And the other thing too. Oh, Triflex. That's interesting.
Yeah.
The other thing too, Steve, that I think is I like about this Drake May pick in this format, he is an easy guy to stack up late in the draft.
Absolutely.
Right? With some of his receivers and tight ends there. I think that's interesting. That's something that you could look towards in the second half of the draft. I'm not telling you anything you already don't know, but it is what it is. I'm letting the viewers know. Behind the mind of Steven Urgalos here. Omari and Hampton, goes tonight at the 4:05 to you. He's running back 16 off the board. I'm not seeing his backfield counterpart drafted yet. Steve, you draft like it's a bodily function. You have to draft. You're always drafting. It's crazy. What have you been seeing, and do you think FFPC players are handling the Hampton versus Harris discussion right?
We don't really know what happened to the eye. I mean, he's dropping to like the 11th or 12th round. I mean, with the ambiguity, I think that's where it really is. So, we got to wait and see. He didn't go to the team doctors. He went to another doctor. Who knows what's wrong with this guy?
Yeah.
It's not unlike NFL teams to lie to us. I mean, so we don't know who, what, when, and where. But I want to clarify something just so you don't think I'm crazy. There are 7 of us. Okay. So myself, Michael Reddy, and Louis Koutros are the main drafters. Okay. Mm-hmm. And starting now, some of the other guys are going to start drafting. So there are 7 of us. It's not just me drafting. Tonight I happen to be there on the cell phone with me back and forth texting picks. But there are 7 of us, so I'm not the only person drafting. Or else how am I going to handle all these teams? But Michael actually is really good. Louis, he really does a lot of research. He kind of like keeps us abreast with anything that pops up. He follows a ton of beat writers, guys I don't even know what their names are. So you have to do that when you're drafting this kind of volume.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to let you get back to it, Steve. This is so much fun chatting with you again. Are we going to have another conversation in person in Louisville and Las Vegas this year?
No, not Louisville, but Las Vegas. I'll be there. Your shirts will be there hopefully in a day or so. So we'll start, we'll get them ready for Kentucky and Vegas.
That's awesome. Steve, thank you so much tonight. Great draft through the first half of the way. Best of luck completing this juggernaut as you go for a free 2026 FFPC main event team. See you at Paris Casino, dude. Yeah, absolutely.
Give it up, Steve.
That is Steven Yergalos. He is drafting this team tonight with Michael Reddy. I'm kind of relieved to hear that he has a consortium handling all these drafts because Wednesday night waivers could be a little bit challenging for him.
It could be, and he's the straw that stirs the drink for Fantasy Sopranos. And these guys, they're tight, they're connected, they enjoy their play. We have 2, if not 3. Of the Sopranos coming to Kentucky. Steve, the missus is actually expecting while the Kentucky draft is going on. And drafters, he should print out the comments from what it is. It never get any better than this. And drafters who are less experienced with success, as Steve might be tempted to get the big head. Not Steve. He just lines up and goes to work every day. So good job.
I want to remind everybody, too, when I talk about these drafts that I see Steve in, he's in a ton of the FFPC Big Gorilla drafts. The Big Gorilla tournament is the old Fantasy Pros tournament. $1 million grand prize, $350 to enter. But remember, you get a $50 discount on every third team you purchase. Drafts available with the live and slow format. The 7 Bananas promo is live. If you randomly get that 7 pick multiple times in a row, we're going to keep giving you free teams. We've awarded 34 free FFPC Best Ball tournament teams, and we've awarded 3 FFPC main event teams. Again, that's a $2,000 plus value on that. Yes. And all these people are just getting them for just getting that 7 pick randomly in a row. You get it 5 times in a row. Jungle Safari for 4, or if you don't want to take a Jungle Safari for 4, we'll give you 50 grand cash instead. Totally.
And here is the only place you can get socks.
That's a great point. But yeah, we'll have to look at that and see if we can start.
As long as the powers that be give it a thumbs up. Socks.
Is that insulting if we give away a trophy and $1 million to first place, and then second place gets a 6-figure grand prize, but we throw in a pair of socks for that as well? I don't know if that's
talking about the guys that finished second in the individual tournaments. So 7 pairs of socks were committed to. No, I'm going to package them nicely. They're going to be delivered. They're going to be delivered with respect.
We should talk about. I'm going to talk about this player here, JJ McCarthy, Farrell, quarterback 17 tonight. Is that accurate? Yeah, quarterback 17 tonight. Mm-hmm. Tyler Bucher from Fantasy Guru, who we haven't talked about yet, his team yet tonight, and he's actually going to be co-hosting the FFPC Insider Access show with me in an episode next month. So I'm very excited to talk to him. But he grabs McCarthy here. If there's one quarterback that's shooting up draft boards over the last few weeks, it's McCarthy. People and FFPC players seem to have gone from like, we don't believe in this guy at all, where he's being drafted as a quarterback 3. Dan Williamson talked about this a lot from Stack Hunters and Player Profiler, overhyped sleeper on X. He's like, I'm just getting this guy for free as my quarterback 3. And now he's like a quarterback 2. And I think he just went in, I could be wrong on this. In one of my Kentucky drafts, I was actually looking at him. He was like quarterback 14 or quarterback 15. He's almost a quarterback 1 at this point, Farrell. Has the love gone too far on McCarthy right now? Because it's harder and harder to draft him.
Nothing wrong with McCarthy. I think this drafter should have taken Goff. He's got a quarterback in Josh Allen that can deliver with the legs. And so as we get later into the year, we have Detroit playing inside. We have an offense that, I think Jared Goff throws for 45 touchdowns and 4,500 yards. Now, he will never be the quarterback. He's never going to be a top fantasy producer because he doesn't do it with his legs. But there's a lot of guys that do it with their legs that are not going to throw for the yardage and the touchdowns. I think he would have been a better play against Allen than McCarthy, the young quarterback that I don't think will regularly, if not ever, score more points than Allen.
Let's bring in.
But Goff good. Goff good.
Right. I want to bring in another guest tonight. He is drafted in this competition for years. I've been on his show. He's been on several of my shows. You follow him on the X at Best Ball NFL. Please welcome in Tod from PA, a.k.a. Best Ball NFL. Tod Burros joining the program tonight, live from the 5 slot. Tod, we are – I'm bringing you on at the worst possible time because you're making it right now. You already made it. Okay, perfect.
This man's a multitasking disruptor. Paul.
Yes,
yes. Understand
and if you've ever, well, never mind. I had a joke, but it wasn't going to work.
That's the only jokes I ever tell, the ones that never land, Tod. So you said in the YouTube chat before the show started tonight, you were feeling disruptive. Was the Trey McBride pick indicative of that? Were you already?
That was the only thing I was talking about.
All right. So you were planning on doing this before the draft started.
Yeah,
McBride at 5.
So here's the thing. There's 2 major differences and one thing about the FFPC. So the thing about the FFPC is, you've got pros versus Joes where you have people drafting in the format who don't do it every day. Mm-hmm. So you tend to get, and we have, like that guy who was just on here, he's taken a couple of the guys that I like real early. So I just didn't want to be in a position. And the other thing about the FFPC and the 1.5 per PPR for the tight end premium is that people tend to push all the tight ends up when really there's only 1 or 2 tight ends who are likely to get 100 catches, and that 100 catches is equal 150 catches. Mm-hmm. So I decided I was going to take McBride, and I thought I could come back and get either A.J. Brown or Ladd McConkey and get a really good wide receiver there, not as good as CeeDee Lamb or as Malik Neighbors, who I would have taken, but it took the worry away. And then I added Evan Engram, who could really be peppered with targets in that offense in Denver. And if I get 80 catches out of Engram to 100 plus over 100 with McBride, and McBride finds a way to actually get into the end zone, well, then I'm really, really ahead of the game in this format. And I trust myself to figure out the rest.
So you were on the clock now, Tod. We got another question coming up actually a couple of questions in the chat room we'll get to here in a little bit. Algier is the pick here, running back 51. What do you make of Algier's usage with Bijan Robinson there with Arthur Smith now in Pittsburgh?
Well, he has some floor on a weekly basis, but he's an every 3 series type of guy, right? Yeah. And, really the play with him is I'm in the 5 spot. Bijan went 4th. So basically if Bijan gets hurt, now I get double the benefit because the guy right next to me's first round pick is out and I've got the backup.
Mm-hmm. Todd, a few questions here on YouTube, but we'll continue the conversation with the McBride pick. We had John Terry wanting to know that if Bowers would have been available to you along with McBride at 5, would you have still taken McBride over Bowers?
No, I would have taken Bowers.
Okay.
I'm not convinced Bowers is going to outscore him this year, but I think that I would have held to ABDP. I didn't think he would. I know Pete Overzet was going to take him. I just wanted a really premier tight end. And at the end of the day, in this format, if he gets 110 catches and he gets 8 touchdowns instead of 2 or 6 instead of 2, he could be the number 1 guy scoring in this format overall.
Dominic Gazzetti, Todd, also had this for you.
Hey, Dom, how you doing?
He saw you take Breece Hall at the 305 tonight, and he wants to know why was Hall the pick over Walker and Cook. He also and to couch that, he brings up Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen in New York as well. It seems like you were a believer in Breece Hall, and that belief is becoming something more prevalent in FFPC drafts lately as well.
I love Walker. I think that guy Sopranos took Charbonnet, who I was going to take. I just, again, I was kind of joking about being disruptive, but there's nothing wrong with taking it. My plan was to come out of the first round with McBride, first 3 rounds with a wide receiver, a tight end, and a running back. Again, in a draft where it's not going to go the way you think it is, I don't like to get out in front of my skis positionally, especially if I can get guys that I really like in each round. And, I could see the negative case for Breece Hall, but I mean, we're talking about a guy who was the first round pick last year. It's going to be a run offense. And if he didn't seem to have the explosion that he had in previous years, that I'm willing to bet that was just injuries and a bad year, and coming off an injury, second year off an injury. And Justin Fields running the ball is really going to open the lanes for Breece Hall. So do I love him? No. Do I like him and think he was a good pick? Yes.
Balky, is it verboten to discuss players that have not been drafted?
Listen, as long as
I would say yes.
It is? Okay, so since
it's verboten.
Todd is our guest, so it is verboten.
Well, see, that's a disruptor, which I appreciate that, because if you're going to come in as a disruptor, we want you to commit to that. You can't say you're going to be one thing and then not be it. So I'll go ahead, but I'm waiting for a certain tight end to be drafted. But let me talk about Pitts. Pitts after Goddard. What do you think?
I mean, Goddard is, to me, one of the better picks on the board.
Why?
Because every year one of the other 2 guys seems to get injured for a few games and he goes nuclear, but he's also very stable. So one of the things you're going to see me do in a second here, and I'm up next, so let's wait. Let's just wait on it.
Tod Burros is now on the clock here at the 14:08.
All right, so I just took Will Shipley.
Yep.
And so, to me, I've been doing a lot of Will Shipley with Jalen Hurts stacks. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure Peter Overzet's not too happy that I took Will Shipley. But I think Will Shipley has the ability to turn fantasy on its head. Again, when you have a first-round back who gets hurt and you've got an offensive line like the Eagles have, he's more of a tournament pick than one here, but I just couldn't not take him, especially since some of the wide receivers I wanted were gone. But back to your question, what was it, Farrell?
I just wanted to comment about Goddard. And
I mean, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, you said that he was dependable. I say he isn't. He's missed 22 games over the last 4 seasons, I think.
No, I meant he's dependable when he plays. I mean,
the availability is one of the greatest abilities in this thing, but he's dependable to catch the same amount of passes as every other grouping of tight end. When you started talking about how few tight ends are going to really get those glory numbers, and Goddard falls in the middle of very average tight end performance, but I think he is drafted and overdrafted every year. And, if you like, so he's our number one team here. He's got AJ Brown and he's got Goddard, which only means to me that he likes Philadelphia, because Barkley and Hurts are still going to deliver the ground game. This came primarily a running team. And, I think in this contest, you're going to need a little more at the second tight end. And there he is. Who drafted Hunter Henry? That's our boy Scott. Hunter Henry, with all the talk about the young quarterback in New England, and Hunter Henry coming off the best season he ever had as far as number of catches, or has had in a lot of years, as number of catches last year. I think that's your tight end steal right there. And Goddard going in the 10th and Henry going in the 14th is a very, very strange set of numbers.
See, again, you also do a lot of season-long stuff, and for season-long, I might agree with you.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's how long this contest is run.
But the older state, the often used statement, better in best ball.
Mm-hmm.
Goddard gives you spike weeks, and spike weeks are very. Did I insult you?
When? What? Huh?
No.
No insult.
I just think that Goddard gives you spike weeks that.
No, if you're going to insult here, you got to go over to the chat room and do it, because that's where most of the insults.
No, I didn't mean to.
You didn't insult me.
You're good, Todd.
Yeah. So
just because you're wrong does not mean that it's an insult. I can understand.
You're always, everyone's right until they're not. So I have a way of, I think Goddard can give you those 20-point weeks that are real separators in that. Hunter Henry, I think for season long, and I like Henry this year. I like Drake May a tremendous amount. And a lot of times I will stack him with Henry because it's just an easy thing. You can get him at any point afterwards. All the wide receivers, even Diggs, there's a lot of question marks. The one guy who is going to be there and put up numbers is Hunter Henry.
Let me just weigh in on Goddard here real quick. This is turned into the Goddard cast, but I'm going to tell you this right now.
Well, I think it's an important conversation.
Philadelphia.
I prefer Toddard, but
to Dallas Toddard from PA. You have a team last year in Philadelphia that was had a historic run running the football. I mean, it was insane how much they ran last year. Even if they're successful running the ball this year, I don't think they run as much as they did in 2024. And then I'll say this about Goddard. We heard earlier in the offseason that they were trying to move him, that they were trying to find a trade partner. Nothing really developed, right? And he's still on the team. And then you look at what they could have done in the offseason, via trades, via signings, via the draft. The tight end depth chart behind Goddard is Grant Calcaterra, Kylan Granson, Harrison Bryant, Nick Muse, Cameron Latu, and EJ Jenkins. I mean, this is Goddard's position. Like, I know there's some Calcaterra fans out there, whatever, but I just feel like Goddard, I know he's probably going to miss some time, Farrell, but you're talking about him as tight end 16 in a premium format as the final pick of the 10th round. I am 100% good with that.
I'm not, because I like all these other guys behind him.
I know, and that's fine, and that's part of what makes it great.
It's good. And
the fact that it's 2-1, I'm good with that.
I'm surprised that Steve, the guy's first name is Dallas. I'm surprised Steve didn't draft him just to, keep that stat going, for God's sake.
That's true. That is true.
He's all over
Dallas stat going. Todd, I'll let you go and let you finish this draft.
I'm just surprised you didn't comment on my quarterbacks.
Okay, well, we can talk about that. Let's do that, because somebody, and I beg your pardon, I might have been Joe King in the YouTube chat, said that he liked the pairing of Hall and Fields. You get Fields here in the 8th, and then you get Herbert in the 9th. Two guys that, Fields obviously a fish out of water because now he's in New York. but Herbert gets this Greg Roman, this Jim Harbaugh offense here. I'll let you weigh in on this with Fields and Herbert waiting until the 8th round to take a quarterback and then going bang, bang with the position, Todd.
Herbert gives you that steady points that you need. Fields is one of the few guys who can give you a 40-point week with his legs. I saw in the chat Dominic Gazzetti ask about stack cuffing. I wanted to add Spears to Pollard, but he went one pick ahead of me. I'm a big fan of taking 2 running backs in a backfield if they're the only 2 running backs, and the price on both of them doesn't start till about where Pollard did in the 7th. That way, every week, one of those guys is probably going to hit my lineup, and if the other one goes down, the one that's left is going to be a stud. So if that was your question about stack cuffing, Dominic, that's what I meant.
Fields is going to be a fun draft this year, a fun draft pick, I should say. I've taken him in a couple of spots. I like grabbing him towards the end of that QB1, that like top 10, top 12 guys, just to see what he does. I understand he's not the most prolific passer in the world, but it may not make a difference. And he could put up big numbers rushing the football this year. Not saying I'm right either way on this, but I'm with you, Todd. In a draft like this, getting Fields as quarterback 9, again, where first place gets paid out the main event. I suppose you could win a pair of socks by finishing in second now, as we found out earlier.
I would look forward to that, only though if Farrell signed them.
Autograph socks. They've turned into autograph socks now.
They will be packaged.
Now, if you do that, then you're cooking with fire.
We're always cooking with fire anytime we hear fantasy football analysis from Tod Burros. Catch him on the X at Best Ball NFL. Of course, the Run to Daylight stream on YouTube as well, as you've been streaming a lot of drafts on there. Todd, thank you so much. Good luck the rest of the way and enjoy drafting season, man. Always a good time chatting with you.
You guys are the best. Have a good one.
Take care, brother.
Tod Burros. Thank you, Todd. Appreciate him. Tod Burros chiming in tonight. We have entered round 17, and I feel like, Farrell, it has been, let's see, what are we looking at? Sunday night. I have gone 3 days, essentially, almost 3 full days without talking to this guy. So let's bring him on right now. He is the founder of the Fantasy Football Expo that will be going on in Canton, Ohio, August 8th through the 10th. Get your tickets now at thefantasyfootballexpo.com. He is the founder of Big Guy Fantasy Sports and, of course, the Fantasy Football Consistency Guide, now available on Amazon.com. Fantasy Football Consistency Guide has been nominated by the FSWA 8 straight years in only its 10th year of existence. Let's bring him on right now, ladies and gentlemen, at Bob_Lung on the X. He co-hosted the Insider Access show with me on Thursday night. He's back here drafting from the 9 spot tonight. Good evening, Bob.
Good to see you. Yeah, and Farrell, thank you for the kind words at the beginning. I was very touched. So always good to see you, my friend.
Appropriately delivered to a man that deserves nothing but the best.
Thank
Bob,
you so much.
Bob, let me ask you this. In your wildest dreams, when you were prepping for this, knowing you were picking 9th, did you ever think Saquon Barkley was going to be part of the equation?
I did not. I was just like, I have to take him, right?
No kidding.
Like, I can't just go, well, I'll wait. So, yeah, I did. So, I really was hoping for McCaffrey to get back, but I got Henry, so I was okay.
And that's a lot of carries there, too. And the great thing about Barkley and Henry there, and I think you the rest of your draft alluded to this, you could focus in on other positions. You drafted one other running back before round 10, and that was Aaron Jones. So your backfield is pretty much set. The Rashee Rice, that was an auto pick. Did you have that in your queue, or how did that happen?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to lie. The 2 picks in front of me.
Daniels and Hampton.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. It was Josh Allen and Kyron Williams, and then it came to you at the 404.
Yeah, so I had both of those guys sitting, and then it was just like, and so I was like, okay, Evans now, and then by the time I just like my brain exploded, and Rice, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Because if he only gets 2 to 4 games, it's okay. And to be honest with you, I picked Hollywood Brown later in round 13. So I feel like I can plug him in until Rice gets back. Maybe not as productive, but at least it should be, close enough.
This is the comeback year for the Chief receivers.
That's what I'm hoping for.
So Bob, let me ask you this too. And I know I'll tell you what, you're coming up on being on the clock right now. Bob's team, we're talking about team 9 right here. He's got Burrow and Darnold as his quarterbacks. The running backfield is Barkley, Henry, Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, Bigsby, and Chubb. The receivers are Adams, Rice, Odunze, Samuel, Kupp, Hollywood Brown, and Elijah Moore. And then tight ends are Dalton Kincaid and Terrence Ferguson. Again, this is no kickers, no defenses in this format. Bob, you have 3 picks to go. You're fairly well balanced. I don't know what you're leaning here. Maybe it's just best player available. But as you are on deck here for the 1804 pick, any names that are running through your mind? Anybody you got teed up ready to go here, depending upon what Chris Carlson does at 10?
Yeah, so I am looking at Raheem Mostert. If Genty does, I'm not saying Genty's not going to be worth it, but if Genty goes down, he's next up, and there isn't much else there. So it's a shot in the dark, but it has good potential there. I was looking at some other backup running backs, Zach Moss, those kind of folks.
Right.
But yeah, it's slim pickings at this point. This is always the most difficult draft because 1, it's 12 brilliant minds. Well, 11 in mine. And then it goes so fast.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's what happens is I'm thinking ahead, but then it's so fast. And all of a sudden I look up and my queue's empty and I'm up and I'm like, well, that's how this plays. And if it is not for the weak of heart, that's for sure.
So Bob, let me let you wax poetic on Dalton Kincaid here. We talked about him on Thursday night, the Thursday night FFPC Insider Access show on the Better Sports Network. If you want to go back and watch that, viewers, it's on the Better Sports Network socials as well as the FFPC socials and bettersportsnetwork.com. Kincaid, you wait until round 10. And you grab Kincaid as the 14th tight end off the board as your starter. You get Ferguson here at tight end 27. But I think these are 2 upside guys here where you understand, like, look, if I'm going to win this, I need one of these guys or maybe both of them to come through. And if they're okay, I'm probably not winning it anyway. But these were both, in my opinion, if we're looking at your team, these were pick to win type picks with Kincaid and Ferguson here. But I'll let you weigh in on why you like Kincaid.
Yeah, to be honest with you, again, the strategy was as it was coming back to the 5th round, I had Kelsey queued up to be that pick. And then he got picked by Jeff Mans 2 picks before, which doesn't surprise me because Jeff hates me. No, I'm just kidding. So then I'm like, okay, I might as well take Burrow. I wanted him too. And I'll just have to wait. And then, Ingram goes, Hawkinson goes. And then I'm like, all right, I need some wide receivers. So I kind of just left them go. And then I was thinking I would get, I was either going to get Jake Ferguson or Dalton Kincaid, which we both talked about on Thursday. And, Ferguson went and then Kincaid was there. So I took Kincaid. And then Terrence Ferguson, honestly, I'm not going to lie. It was because you talked so much about him. I'm like, yeah, why would you not pick a guy in that Rams offense? I wanted Stafford, of course, but he got sniped for me a few rounds before I was going to get him. But it's okay. Like I said, tough league, and you just got to go with whatever the flow gives you.
It's funny because I have been drafting one of the Rams tight ends, not always the same one, but I've been drafting one of the Rams tight ends as like my tight end 3 in a lot of best balls. And sometimes it's Terrence Ferguson and sometimes it's Tyler Higbee. But I just want one of those guys on my team. And I think for this format, you took the right guy. I think I'd rather have Ferguson over Higbee because of the upside, because of the mystery box aspect, because we don't know what this guy is capable of. So I was a fan of that. We talked with Fantasy Sopranos, Steven Yergalos earlier about his pick of Omari and Hampton at the 405. I feel like you and I touched on Najee Harris on Thursday night as well. Najee Harris is where you grabbed him tonight, was at the 1109 running back 42. As your number 4 running back, I think you can make a convincing argument for Najee Harris here at this value.
Easy.
Yeah. He's 7 rounds after Hampton, and I know why. We talked about it Thursday, the whole eye thing, and he was already not not looked at highly, as I discussed the other night. I think Najee gets the first nod because Jim Harbaugh went out to get him, and
always,
so if the eye is not a problem by the time season starts, I think Najee gets the majority of the carries. Hampton gets a few, and then it's Najee's job to lose. And I think Harbaugh, as a veteran kind of guy, is going to let that situation happen. And if Najee fails, then Najee fails. But it's up to Najee. But he's playing for his first big contract after he got, his scenario taken away from him. When the fifth round or his fifth-year option wasn't picked up by the Steelers. So I think he has a chip on his shoulder, and he's going to go out there and prove that he's not done. He still has some juice in there. And if he does, then that pick works out very well for me. But like you said, as a fourth running back, I can take that risk.
So let me ask you this, Bob. You just picked Flacco here. You get him to go with Darnold and Burrow, which is fine. I think that grabbing three quarterbacks is fine in this scenario. I want to let you weigh in on, when we were talking about your favorite sleepers. One of the guys you mentioned was Elijah Moore, which my ears perked up when I heard that, because I hadn't heard a lot of people talk about him either positively or negatively this year. You grab Elijah Moore here in the 17th round. Can you talk a little bit about why you think more people should be paying attention to this player in best ball drafts?
Yeah, I think he's just that kind of player that just hasn't had that opportunity, right? He gets drafted by the Jets, but behind Garrett Wilson, and then you have bad quarterbacking. It just never worked out well for him. And so then he goes to the Browns, and boom, he's behind Judy. He's behind Cedric Tillman and Mari Cooper. So he just never got that opportunity. But when he came to the Bills camp and OTAs, there was nothing but rave reviews for this kid by Josh Allen, by the team, by the writers. And I just feel like, I think Shakur and Coleman are solid receivers, but Moore has that opportunity to maybe earn a few more targets. And if he can prove that he is as good as he was when he came out of college, that he could be one of those surprise players that may be the difference between, being in fifth place or being in second place, or first place. So, especially in a best ball format where, every good game he has could be important. So just like the stab, and again, 17th round, I'm okay with that.
Bob, last thing I want to bring up, you did something fun here. And fantasy football is supposed to be fun.
Yes.
I have not seen the Ferguson Higbee stack. You did it tonight, my friend. You get both Rams tight ends here to go along with Kincaid. And I'm telling everybody this right now. You look at Bob's start at the running back position, Barkley and Henry. You look at all these receivers. He drafted 5 receivers in the first 9 rounds. If Kincaid works out, I believe that there's something there with that Ferguson Higbee stack. We'll see what happens. And obviously you got Joe Burrow, who's going to throw for 1 billion yards and touchdowns again.
I would think so.
Bob, your draft is complete. And I like the little cherry on top with Higbee. How do you think you did?
This is a tough one. This is one of those, when I walk out, I go, I guess it's okay.
It's more than okay.
When you're drafting against, first off, all of these Joes are far from Joes. These guys are all top-notch, high-stakes guys. So just because we don't recognize their name because they're not, quote, in the industry, you guys know how good they are. And then you throw in J.J. Zachariason, Jeff Mans, Tod Burros. It's just mind-blowing. You can't think too far ahead. You have to think you have to literally put, if you're 10 picks away, you better have 11 picks in the queue, because they could all go. And it's not like, a home draft or local, whatever. This is the best of the best. We do our Kings Classic, but it would be interesting someday, to do a pros versus Joes kind of thing in Canton as a live thing. But this to me is some of the best versus the best, because
Bob,
the best at winning money. We're just best at writing about it.
What are you looking forward? And I know if you had come clean with Balky, you would have said, hey, when I got auto picked, I was doing something that has to relate to your forthcoming convention. I know that's exactly what you were doing when that happened. But of all the things that are going to happen with your annual meeting, what's the one thing that you're most looking forward to?
It's just the camaraderie and the friendship. There's a lot of knowledge, and if you're a fan, you come for that knowledge. You are listening to all of the. I mean, a lot of these guys who are drafting are going to be there. Obviously, a lot of guys in all the pros versus Joes. So as fans, you're coming to learn from the best of the best, to rub elbows with the best of the best. But on the other side of content creators and just now all friends, it's that getting together. How you been? How's the family, wife, kids, whatever? Just hanging out, having a good time. You know, I always say it's 750 of my closest friends talking fantasy football for an entire weekend. Yes. I mean, you guys have your drafts and you have your events. You know, I'm sure that everybody knows everybody. A lot of those guys are very familiar with themselves, but they're also real competitive. There's a lot of money on the line. But, you know, this is just a great weekend, you know, and hopefully we'll get some of the guys that have attended this, or, you know, they're part of the Joes to come and hang out with us, because we'd love to have them for sure.
TheFantasyFootballExpo.com is where to get your tickets. Once again, this goes from August 8th through the 10th. Bob has already pointed out to me on Thursday, get your tickets now, because August 4th, they're basically going to be cut off. You have to get them within the next 2 weeks, and you don't want to miss out on this. A lot of new stuff this year. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff. Like the Fantasy Football Expo gets better and better every year, just like the Fantasy Football Consistency Guide, available for purchase at Amazon.com. This is something that you have been doing for years. And Bob, in its 10th year, this has been nominated 8 times in the last 10 years for best fantasy football publication by the Fantasy Sports Writers of America. Congratulations on that. And congratulations on anybody who is picking it up right now, because as you said, like, this is not the end all be all, but this is a great supplement and something that everybody should be looking at as they do their drafts this year.
Exactly. I would say it's the fries of the Happy Meal, right? It's, you know, get your site, whether it's Fantasy Alarm or ESPN or, you know, whatever. And then just get the guide, have it there with you. And then as you're starting looking at your rankings and you're kind of trying to weigh between 2 players or 3 players, then open up the guide, see the consistency numbers, and then that will help you go, oh, this guy is 80%, this guy was 50, this guy was 40. Now I know the difference. Now I can make better choices in my pick. So again, guys, appreciate the time. Love. I appreciate all that. Farrell, thank you again. Eric, thank you again. And everybody else, we'll see you in about 3 weeks in Canton.
You got it, Bob. Thank you so much, man. We will continue to follow you on the X at Bob_Lung. Be good, man. Talk soon.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
I wonder if he's going to have them available at the convention. People can buy them up there.
You never know. There's a non-zero chance of that. I would say too, just about the consistency guide, and put a bow on this. This is something that, at least to my knowledge, nobody else in the industry is doing. When you talk about consistency week to week, year to year, what have you, this is something that I think everybody should look at as a tiebreaker, as something that you can utilize to bump players up or bump players down your draft boards based on this. They don't just nominate anything. And this guy, I mean, I don't know if there's any publication that's been nominated 8 straight years. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But I know Bob Lung's Fantasy Football Consistency Guide has been. Amazon.com is where to go for that. Farrell, in the time we were talking to Bob, the draft ended. This is a super quick draft tonight. Insanely fast, but that's okay, because we got a lot accomplished. And the great thing is, the players that we wanted to talk about, the draft strategy we didn't get a chance to talk about, we have 5 more times to do this, including tomorrow night. And one of the best things about tomorrow night is it'll be you, it'll be me, and of course the 11-time, probably more than 11-time now, FFPC League champion Dave Tripoli joining us on the show tomorrow. So that's going to be fun as well. I'll let you rest up for that. Until then, I will tell everybody to go to KFFSC.com. Check out the main events. Check out everything going on, the Sweet 16s. If you want to draft live in Louisville, there's a big payback available as well. It's all going on at KFFSC.com, Farrell.
We've got a lot happening, Balky, and we'll invite everyone from the chat room. That was a big turnout in the chat room tonight. I mean, it's just fantastic. Because we were talking with the guys dropping in, we didn't get enough time to respond with those guys, but I hope they'll come back tomorrow night and And you know, there's nothing better. There's nothing better than hanging out with me and Turp. It's just
it's fun
and Balky to officiate. And, you know, it's you know, it's just going to be really good.
It's a fun dynamic, and you'll be able to watch it live at 9:00 Eastern time tomorrow. Farrell, I'll see you then, man.
Take care, brother. See you at 9.
That is Farrell Elliott, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, ladies and gentlemen, and that will wrap up Pros versus Joes Night 1. I want to thank Darren Armani, the FFPC, our producer, mutual friend Rob, audio engineer, my best friend Bryce, most of all, our viewers and listeners, as well as Steven Yergalos, Tod Burros, and Bob Lung for popping aboard the draft tonight. Now, tomorrow we will be 1 hour later, 9 p.m. Eastern for the Guns N' Roses Pros versus Joes division. The Joes will include Zachary and Gerard Rentz, Joe Van Gogh, who's been a guest on several FFPC podcasts before, super talented guy. You got Greg Link coming up, Kyle Hoff and Ryan Heller, Bob Buonopane, and Rob Tomasino. Rob, I think, is coming on that High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Is it this Friday? I think he might be coming on this Friday. I have to double check that. But he's a Joe that's be drafting as well. The Pros tomorrow, Blair Andrews. A lot of these guys have been on podcasts with me in the past, FFPC podcast. You got Blair Andrews from RotoViz, and then Andrew Cooper, the tight end whisperer from Fantasy Alarm. Connor Allen is going to hop aboard from 4 for 4. Brian Drake and Matt Donnelly, Dynasty Viper, and Brian Drake from Fantasy Points. That's going to be a fun pairing drafting tomorrow. The King from rotoballer.com, Scott Engel, and of course, Davis Maddock will be drafting 12th tomorrow. God knows what he's capable of. Very excited to see his draft. I know it's going to be competitive. I know it's going to be good. Most of all, I know it's going to be fun. That is tomorrow at 9:00 here on the FFPC YouTube channels. Again, main event, early draft slot deadline with the FFPC is next Sunday. Then if you have your teams bought and paid off for by then, you will get your early draft slots August 3rd. You can plot for what you're going to be doing in the main event to try to win $1 million for well over a month if you're drafting live with us at Paris Resort and Casino. Of course, main event, slow drafts and live drafts off and running. Multiple big gorilla drafts filling up every day. In fact, I'm going to tell everybody right now, if I got you, if I whetted your appetite and you're all whipped up into a drafting frenzy, we got big gorilla drafts. The next one starts tonight at midnight. So it's going to be 11:55 Eastern time. You got a couple hours to prep for that. That still has 8 spots available. I feel pretty good about that one filling up. So make sure you're checking that out at myffpc.com. If you're still in best ball season, that's fine too. Best ball tournament, Superflex best ball tournament, $125 and $35 to enter. You're looking at a $300,000 grand prize and a $100,000 grand prize in those tournaments. Dynasty startups are always going off at myffpc.com. And join the KFFSC main event and all the other KFFSC leagues at kffsc.com. This was a lot of fun tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for hopping aboard. Really appreciate each and every one of you. Ton of live draft coverage. It continues on tomorrow at 9:00. Your week officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Farrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
You guys know me. I never like to end the show on a bad note or a sour note, but I feel like we have to not give short shrift to this story. Many of you who have been coming to the FFPC live events for years know of this guy. He was one half of the Day Drinkers franchise, Josh Held and Jason Goldman, who, if you go way back when we were doing some early video advertising for the FFPC 10 plus years ago, these guys they appeared in one of the first videos we ever did, video advertising, video coverage of the FFPC main event live in Las Vegas. And you could actually probably go on our YouTube channel right now and see these guys. Josh Held was a guy who, one of my favorite guys to hang out with in Las Vegas. Super friendly, super fun, live life to the ultimate, and was a really talented player too. He's one of the first guests. He and Jason Goldman, two of the first guests I ever had on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, as we're in year 14 of that podcast. Just an awesome guy, awesome individual. And today, I think it was earlier this morning, he ended up passing away of cancer, and he was only 45 years old, and it just stinks. But I do want to shout him out. Reading what I have and knowing what I know about him, he was a super fun, friendly guy who loved life, loved his family, loved his kids, loved everything about life, and he lived it to his fullest. And hopefully that's what we can do and take from Josh is tomorrow is never promised, and you want to do what you can while you're here. And fantasy football is certainly a way to do that. Thankful that all of you guys and women are tuning in tonight and watching this. But I just wanted to make sure we didn't give short shrift to Josh Held, one of my favorite FFPC players, just gone way too soon at age 45. So rest in peace, Josh. We already miss you. And for the rest of you, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great night, and we'll see you for night 2 tomorrow evening.